Hey, what is good, people? We're back again. This is Just Science, and you may be coming from the last video in this series, or you may be new to this channel completely. If you are new, I do mostly music production tutorials with a bit of filmmaking and design as well. Please subscribe to this channel if that kind of stuff is interesting to you. But today we are jumping further into the new features in Reason version 11. In the last video, we covered the two new effect devices, the quartet ensemble and the sweeper device. In this video, we're going to jump more into the sequencer and the timeline and show you guys some of the features that have been added to enhance the workflows there. So if you watched the last video, you know what the beat is that we're working on. If not, this is just a little bit of a vibe that I threw together to do this tutorial and kind of check out some of the new functions in Reason. But the song sounds like this so far. And what we're going to be looking at is this drum kit right here. So right now these drums have no hi-hat, and I wasn't going to put a hi-hat in here, but one of the cool new functions in the Reason sequencer is the multi-note pencil tool. But I really want to test that function out and see how it does with, you know, trap style hi-hat trills. So I'm going to go into my favorite drum folder and grab a hi-hat. Let's go with a closed hat. If anybody from Reason Studios is watching this video, please in the next round put a randomize button into my library browser, so my giant folders of sounds here, I don't have to go through step by step, one at a time in order. I can just kind of shuffle through those sounds and find something that I like without knowing ahead of time what I'm looking for. But for this round, I'm going to choose this Echo Soundworks hat and dump it into my red drum here. The next thing I'm going to do is grab my pencil tool and go down to the timeline. I will draw in a 4-bar loop here, and let's actually bring my loop markers to that point and zoom into that point as well so we can get a nice clean view of this. I'll also close down my rack. And while we're in this view right here, I will show you guys one of the other little enhancements that's been made to the timeline and the sequencer. In the past, if you were on a Mac and you hold Command and scroll, you can change the size of all of these tracks in your sequencer window. However, now they have added a function in between the rows to click and drag and resize individual rows. You know, it doesn't seem that impressive because this is something that we have grown to expect as users of other types of softwares. So definitely thanks for adding that in there, Reason. But get on top of it faster next time. You want to impress us, not just deliver what we've been asking for years. But since we're working on the drum track here, I'm going to keep all of those other tracks small and open up that sequencer track that I just drew in with the pencil. If I hit Command and double click in there, I will now open up the actual sequencer for that red drum machine. So inside this view, running down the left hand side, if you're not familiar with it, these are all the samples that are currently loaded into the red drum. And by using the pencil tool and clicking here, I can draw actual notes for that hi-hat that we just created. I'm going to undo that because in the new version of Reason, we can go up here to the pencil tool. You see there's a little drop down icon here. We click and hold and we can choose drawing single notes one at a time, or click and drag to draw multiple notes on the sequencer timeline based on the grid value. And so up here is my grid value. So as you can see here, I can set my grid to any specific value. Or if I just choose grid at the top, this is more like the Logic kind of smart grid function, where depending on your zoom level, your grid value will actually change and get smaller value as you zoom further into the timeline here. At the bottom, you'll also notice two new options, absolute and relative. Relative is the new option that kind of gives you, again, more of that smart grid feature to help you drag your items on the timeline to more of where it thinks you want to drop them, rather than the old absolute value, which is how the Reason 10 and earlier would function in clicking and dragging around and dropping pieces into the timeline. So I'm not really sure of the exact specifics of what relative is doing opposed to absolute, but absolute is more akin to how older versions of Reason would deal with moving things around in your sequencer window. I'm going to start out with grid at the moment and just click and drag and see what kind of hi-hat notes I get into here. So here is my hi-hat channel. I'm going to click on the one and drag this out, and you'll see I got 16th notes. So maybe here at the 1.4 bar, I want to add, a little bit of a hi-hat trill. So let's edit those out. And if we zoom in, you'll see we have now a grid 1/32 time divider, and we click and drag now, and we draw in 30-second notes. Playing that back sounds like this. Okay, really quickly, we already got that kind of trap hat vibe. I'm going to select all of these and duplicate them out a couple times. So when we zoom out, we have filled those 4 bars. And I don't necessarily like that. I'm going to add a little bit more variation. So maybe this section here, I want to remove these notes, and I am right now in the 1/4 grid. So I click there and I get 1/4 note. Let's play that again. And then maybe right here on this bar, I want to go in there and add some triplets. I'll delete those notes right there. And one thing that I'm not loving about this new smart grid is the fact that I have to come down here to the bottom and zoom in. It's been bugging me for a long time, but I use a trackpad from Apple when I am actually, moving around on my desktop computer. I also, if I'm on my laptop, have a trackpad right there. And those of you who are Mac users know that the pinch zoom function is really, really useful in most other softwares. You can zoom in and out of the timeline really quickly, but with Propellerhead, I'm not really able to do that. The option or control and scroll option doesn't really work for me. It's a little bit too wild, and I would love to have, again, a pinch zoom on that sequencer timeline to be able to zoom in and out more kind of naturally and instinctively than what they currently do. But anyways, what I'm going to do here, because I don't want to spend all that time zooming in and out and being all finicky about it, I'm just going to go in here and grab some 1/8 triplets and click and drag those into there. And then one more time, let's play this back and see what we have. And one more time on that last bar, we will go in and let's put in a couple basic 8 notes there. And I'll actually drop out that last little 1/4 of a bar. And now the hi-hats that we have are like this. Okay, now maybe we want to make that a little bit even more intricate. I can go in here and do a bit of velocity changing in here. If you guys have seen my other tutorial about more natural velocity randomizing, you could definitely use that function here. You can definitely use that trick here. I'm just going to add a little bit of a velocity curve to these hi-hats, give them some variation. Also, one of the new functions here is this mute, and I can mute individual notes by choosing my mute tool and actually going through and clicking on them. So maybe I want a couple of these hi-hats to just drop out and give a little bit more flavor to this loop. So that one there, maybe 2 of them. And that one too. Okay. So you see, I just went in and muted out a few of those notes. I would typically do this if I was trying to, sequence out the whole track and add variation over each bar to my loop and make it sound a little bit more natural, like a live drummer was playing it. But this is kind of an intermediary before I just start like deleting MIDI notes. I can mute them out and test different patterns to see what sounds the best. But here is the full track now that we have added in those hi-hats. All right, so hopefully you guys got some value out of that. If you did and you want to see more like it, hit that subscribe button and click the notifications bell to know when I post. Give me a thumbs up for those analytics, and I will check you guys in the next video. Peace.